Hey guys, welcome back. So today on the workbench we're going to be trying to figure out why my Vision Line Hudson stalls out, or I should say trips the brick on my operating track sections, my Lionel Fastrack operating track sections. So that's what we're going to be doing today, so let's jump into it, see if we can figure this thing out. Right, so we brought our engine over to the workbench here, and we have it in our foam cradle here so we can kind of check it out. Now if we look at the bottom right here, really the only thing I see are the pickups, right? And I do notice that one of the pickups, which is this one right here, actually if it goes down far enough will actually hit the little screw right here, which is used to grease the drive mechanism. So if I zoom in there, you guys can see it right there's the little screw, right? And if the pickup is pushed far enough up here, it touches the screw. Now this would be ground, that'd be power, right? And that would of course create a dead short and then trip the brick, and then all power would be lost. So that's our main symptom. I don't know if this is the actual issue right here on this particular one, but it seems logical, right? Because if I look at the other pickups and I push down on them, in order for them to touch the body, they would have to go really far down, and the center rail never gets that high, right? But this one particular pickup, actually, if it gets pushed high enough, would actually hit the screw here, and that would cause my issue. Now, I have a operating track section right here that I don't have on the layout. It's just a new one I had extra. And the one thing about the Lionel Fastrack operating track sections that I never liked is the magnet that is in the center right here. The plastic housing that's sort of around it, if you it's hard to see in the camera, but basically if you looked at the center rail coming down here, and then as soon as it hits this plastic, it actually bumps up. There's like a little hump, and then goes back down and then to the center rail. So, so you can see like sort of the, I don't know if you can see it in the camera here, but the plastic around the magnet sort of is angled up and then angled back down to the rails. So the pickup rides up and down over that, for that magnet. I don't know why. Like, I'm not sure why they would need to do something like that, because it's magnet, right? And if you're using an some kind of operating car that uses a plunger for the magnet or something, it's certainly strong enough. It doesn't have to be right next to it like that. So it's, in my opinion, this design is not the greatest because it's too high and it's making the pickup bump up and down. This isn't the first engine I've had this sort of a weird issue when it goes over the Fastrack operating track sections where it'll short out. And then it just kills the power to the track. It doesn't hurt the engine or anything, but it stops every time it comes through this section. So, so that's the problem with these operating track sections. Now, I don't actually use the center magnet on any of my operating cars. They're all the ones that use the sliding shoes on these two center rails here. But originally, I thought it was the center rails causing the problem, where like the pickup was like, you know, crossing over between or something, but that's actually not it. So here's how I sort of diagnose this. So I put the engine in the cradle right here, as you can see, and I'm gonna pull this way down here. So hopefully we can get a good picture of this on the camera, but we'll see if we actually can, if you guys can see it, what I'm seeing actually in person here. But what I did is upside down in the cradle, in order to sort of test my theory to see, what I did is I took the track section right here, and I'm just putting it on the main drive wheels, and I'm just running it across, right, until I hit the other side of the drive wheels. And basically I'm holding it down like that. And if I kind of look really closely then, and you guys will not be able to see it on the camera, I really doubt it, but anyway, I'm looking inside here, and I'm looking at that one particular pickup to see how close does it actually get to the screw, and is that my actual issue, right? So when it's in the normal, going through the normal track, it's fine. But when I get over to this hump in the middle here, you guys can't see it right here, but it is like barely, or just barely touching that screw. So the pickup is actually hitting that screw right there, and it does actually touch it. So, and it's not till it gets to, again, this sort of, if it focuses here, but gets to this hump right here, right? And that's how I diagnosed it. I just did a sort of like upside down type test on it, and just as if the engine would pass over it, and I watched as the pickups moved up and down as it hit the different areas, and it absolutely, when it hits this area right here, that pickup is actually touching this screw right here. It's very slight. So, and that makes sense. It's unfortunate that this screw is so close to this pickup right here. I mean, this is a Lionel engine. This is Lionel Fastrack, right? And Fastrack's been around a long time. It's not like when the Vision Line Hudson came out, they didn't have this track section, right? They did. So there's sort of an incompatibility again within the same manufacturer. So we got a problem here that in order to fix it, you know, we don't have too many choices. So the only thing we could do is try to grind the screw down on the one side, which I don't really like that idea, but it is a possibility. Or try to get a different screw in here that has a shorter head on it, not as high, and see if that would be enough to clear it. Or on the operating track section, you know, the other thing I could do is possibly, you know, since I don't use, for me, I don't use the actual magnet on any of my stuff in the middle right here. I technically could probably take this out, take this part out of here, maybe even replace the center rail going down the whole thing completely. I'd have to take the track section apart here. Those are the outer, this is the inner. So I'd have to find the inner one. I think it's, see, there is a ground on, there's a wire on here. Let's see, where is that going? I'd have to trace these wires back to see where they go. Oh, this is just a connection between the two here. Yeah, I mean, if I was able to put a new rail that just went straight down the center here instead of what they have, eliminate the magnet that's in here, so that would just be taken out because I wouldn't use it anymore. And let's see, that would be it. Now my other choice is to try to like take this down here. I could just try to take the magnet out, but the problem is if I just take the magnet out, I am going to need some kind of rail in there, otherwise the pickup is going to drop inside there and then probably hang up when it tries to get back up onto the center rail. So that's the only other problem. Because even if I ground down the plastic here, the magnet in the middle here is still sticking up at that same height. So that's my issue. So we know what the cause of the short is. Now we got to figure out how do we resolve it. Now, not all engines have this problem. It just happens to be that the Vision Line Hudson here happens to have its grease screw right underneath a pickup. And you can actually even see, if you look at the pickup itself, right, if you looked really close at it, where it's actually arcing, you know, when it hits that screw, whenever it rolls over one of these sections. And it does it on every single operating track section that I have on the layout. So I've got like, I think I've got 3 total. And it, I'm surprised it doesn't do it over switches and everything, but they're fairly even as you go through the Fastrack switches, but it definitely does it on these sections. So I think what I'm going to do is take this screw out and just see what the head looks like, how much we got to work with here. I may get a different screw that's the same size basically, and try to put that in there and see what kind of clearance I can get between the two. The other thing is I could try to coat the screw with something so that when the roller hits it, it won't short against it, because it's only, you know, it's only momentary as it's passing over this tiny little section right here. It's not like it's throughout the whole layout or anything like that. But that is our issue, and so let me go see if I can find some kind of a screw that has a lower, thinner head on it that we can put in there temporarily just to test it. And if that works, we could leave that in there, and that would solve our problem. The other thing is we can try some kind of insulated thing. I hate to have to modify these tracks, right? Because that means I got to pull them off the layout, and I've got to you know, take out the magnet and then try to replace the center rail, make sure all the contacts for everything are the same, because it does affect the center rail. Power affects this controller for the sliding shoe rails that are on here too. So got to be careful that we don't disturb something else while we're trying to replace that. But it looks, I think it looks pretty straightforward actually. I think we probably could just take a normal center rail, just we'd have to bend up all these tabs under here, desolder these, and then put it back. So we got one here, let's see, two, let's see, now there's a bunch of stuff. We got, let's see, what are they using these outer ones here for? Let me see. I think those are for something else that we don't need. These little terminals that are right here that come out. There's ground and blue, and I forget what they use these for, because these edges come off the off of here, and then there's 3 contacts here, but I forget what they use them for, because there's just straight contacts. They don't touch anything or do anything. So if I eliminated those, that would be wouldn't matter. That's not going to be a big deal. And then I'm not sure exactly what holds the magnet in here, but that would have to come out. That would be coming out, that would be coming out. This, and then the end point. And then I could probably put a straight piece of off another track section. Just put a straight rail right through the whole thing. And that might actually work. Although this center might have to be ground out because it's not, doesn't have a groove going down the whole center so that the rail would be flat. So it would be some work, let's just put it that way, to be able to get this to work correctly. So it'd be much easier rather than trying to modify these. I'm not saying it's impossible or I won't do it, but it's probably easier just because it's only a few engines that actually do this, and mostly because of their design on the bottom of the engine. It's probably easier to try to modify this area right here. So take this screw out and try to find a replacement that's shorter to see if it's just enough to clear it. Or if I look at this, you know, it's barely touching it, you know. If I sort of ground like the one side of the head off of the screw, it would probably clear, or clear enough where it wouldn't touch anymore. But what we could do, just as a temporary test, is we're going to get a piece of electrical tape. I'm going to just put it on top of this for now, and we're going to run it through one of the track sections, and we're going to see if this is our actual issue to confirm it 100%. Then we'll know where to proceed from there. So let me go put this engine back on the track. I'll show you what it does when it runs through the section, and then we'll put a piece of tape on here and we'll run it again and we'll see what happens. Alright, here's our track section right here. Here's the little sort of magnet right in the middle here on the bump. The engine's right here. I'm going to pull it over, and it's probably going to be somewhere close to the middle when it stops, if our theory is correct. But let's just see. We're going to go really slow. And I'm looking sort of directly at it underneath here. And right there it was, I saw it. So basically as soon as it hit the little bump up. I saw the pickup go up and I saw a little spark, and that was pretty much the end of it. So it is touching that screw, unfortunately, and that is our problem on this particular locomotive. So now, just again, I just saw it, so I know that's it, but we're going to put a little piece of tape on there, and then we're going to run it again, and we're going to see what happens. All right, so what I've done is I put a little piece of black automotive cloth tape right here, as you can see, right over this screw, so this won't be able to touch it, and we're going to give it a run, so let's see what happens. Let's try it again with the tape on it. Alright, it's coming up on the bump. And what do you know? Goes right through. Let's back it up. Works perfect now. All right, guys, so obviously there's quite a tight tolerance there between the pickup and that screw, that grease screw that greases the gearbox. It's unfortunate the screw isn't flatter. I might try to find one. I'll see what I can do. The other problem is the Lionel Fastrack operating track sections. That bump is just too high. I've never liked it on any of the sections that I've had. Every time something runs over it, if I have a problem, it's always with those operating track sections, and it's always for the same reason. Basically, the center pickup is touching some other piece that's grounding it out and then shorting it out, whether it's one of the sliding shoe rails or whether it's the the pickup hitting part of the engine because it's just pushing it up too high, right? So that is the issue with those. So I don't like them, but I do have a couple of operating accessories where I need them in front to dump the loads, like the logs into the sawmill and things like that. So on this particular engine, that little fix where I put the tape on there, I mean, it's a little sloppy, I just threw it on, but I would take that off and then do a much cleaner installation over that screw head. But I'm going to be honest with you, that's actually the easiest and quickest solution. And if you haven't used the black cloth electrical tape before, it is incredibly sticky. So if you make sure that that area that you're putting it over is clean and dry, and you put that piece of cloth tape on there, and the nice thing about the cloth tape, because it's made out of cloth, is you can mold it around anything. So I can actually mold it around that screw, so it's almost like just a tiny little layer on top of the screw, and it will not come off. It doesn't matter how many times that runs over there and that little pickup hits it, it's not gonna peel off. This stuff is super sticky. It's not like electrical tape. Like electrical tape wouldn't work in this situation, the standard vinyl stuff, because it would just peel off after a while. And electrical tape, the vinyl stuff, but just by itself, a lot of times will unravel and come loose and stuff like that. This stuff is totally different. So it's the black cloth electrical tape that's used in automobiles where they wrap wire looms and things like that. That stuff is incredibly sticky. So I am going to take this back to the workbench. We're gonna take that piece I just threw on there real quick, and I'm gonna cut a nice clean piece, make sure it's all dry, and then apply that on there, and that's my fix. I don't have to alter the tracks, and I don't have to try to alter the engine in any way, like grinding down the screw. I don't like doing stuff like that on engines, right? I don't like grinding things and doing stuff like that. I will search for a screw with a little thinner head on it. That would also be a permanent solution if I could find one that has the same threads and everything like that. But if not, we're gonna go with the tape solution, and believe it or not, it will not come off. Trust me on this one. I've used that tape before in many different scenarios for different things, and that stuff is like I've used it before where I wanted to get it off something and it was so hard to get off. So as long as you don't get a cheap brand or something like that. But if you get the normal black electrical automotive cloth tape, then you're good. Yeah, and that's going to be it. So as you see, we resolved our issue, and I think I have one other, I forget what engine it is. I think there's one other one that also would stall. It might be the Reading T1, I think, stalls on the track. So I'm going to, you know, get that out and do the same thing to it, figure out which pickup is touching what, and then go from there. But that's the problem with the Fastrack operating track sections. The design is not good on that center magnet where it raises the pickup too high. All right, and that's pretty much it. So I cut the piece of black cloth tape the same width as the housing here for the grease, the gear housing right here. And then it came over, tapered over the screw head, which is right here, and then down around the bottom to secure it on the other side. So this stuff is not moving anywhere, trust me. Plus, this is not really being rubbed by anything except for the momentary second, you know, half a second or whatever it is, that this would actually ride over that little hump and then try to touch the actual thing here. So it can still roll, as you can see here. I can still roll it against the tape without any problem. So yeah, that's a very simple, quick, easy way to resolve an issue like this without having to do any kind of modification to the engine itself, permanent modification I should say, and not having to then tear up the track and try to come up with some kind of solution on the design flaw that they have on these operating track sections, right? Now, having said that, right, you know, having that screw right here, right by a pickup like that, not the greatest design in the world. So I don't know if they should have maybe just had 3 pickups on here instead of 4, or, you know, but, you know, when they're designing an engine that goes with their own track system and they don't test that kind of stuff out, this is the kind of stuff you run into. So like I said, this isn't the only engine I've had this issue with, and then other engines run through just fine because of the location of where their pickups actually are, and then where, you know, if they could possibly, you know, touch anything as they're running or whatever it may be. So but anyway, that is the solution, and it's a very quick fix, costs almost nothing, and if for some reason in the future this would ever come off, it's easy to just clean it up again, put a new piece on, and you're ready to go, and that's pretty much it. So alright guys, well that's going to be it for today's video on how to resolve a engine that basically trips your breaker when it's going over a Lionel Operating track section. And you know, it's really just a design thing between the engine and the track section, and that little bump in the middle that sort of raises it up, and there's a possibility that your pickup will then ground against the chassis of the locomotive. So that's what it was for me. Simple fix in my particular case was to use a piece of black cloth tape. You could try to grind down the screw to see if you can get enough clearance, but there's no guarantee that the pickup still won't hit, depending how far it actually pushes up when it goes over that little hump in the track section. So you got a couple of options, but at least you know kind of what to look for if it's like a mystery and you can't understand why it would be doing that. Obviously, when something trips the breaker, it means that you've got a hot and a ground coming together when they shouldn't, and you know, it's creating a short. So as always, I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you put your comments down below, and hit the subscribe and like button, and I will see you guys on the next video. Peace, guys.